Streusels on Stossels. That's what we could call it. What's the size of your streusel?
Welcome to the Lions of Liberty podcast. Here is your host, your guide, your shining beacon of liberty, Marc Clair.
Well, welcome on back to the Lions of Liberty podcast. This is the 190th episode. Holy, we are really getting close to 200. This is getting scary. If you've been following along at home, you'll know that you can find all the show notes for today over at lionsofliberty.com/190. And, a lot of you have reached out, by the way, to let us know that you were interested in helping this show financially because you just really like everything we're doing. You like the interviews we're doing. You like these roundtables, which you're going to hear today. And if you're one of these people, well, stay tuned because we're going to have some announcements in the future about several possible avenues to help us out. But in the meantime, you can do so by doing something very, very simple, and that's doing all of your Amazon shopping through our Amazon affiliate link. You can find that link at lionsofliberty.com/Amazon. It costs you $0 extra to shop through there. And Amazon literally has everything that exists on the planet. So if you need something and you want to buy it online and get it delivered to your doorstep and help us out at the same time, why don't you head on over to lionsofliberty.com/Amazon, bookmark that link, and you can help us without even thinking about it. It's really a wonderful thing. So we can continue to keep the lights on here in the Lions of Liberty studios, where I have a very special guest. It's actually his first time. It's not his first time in the studios per se, but it's the first time recording in the studios with me. And that is, to my left, our own legal counsel, one Mr. Rico.
Well. So wonderful to be here where all the magic really happens.
Is it everything you ever dreamed it would
is.
be?
It's actually more. I've never been to this part of the Clair mansion, so it's a whole new experience for me.
All right, but it's not just you. First, I've also got the man that's usually in this spot. He is located a mere mile or so away at his own humble abode because he finally got his own microphone, everybody. All right, give him a round of applause, Mr. Brian McWilliams. From Culver City,
I got my own mic. That's right. I'm in my bat cave of my own, my little microphone sanctuary. So yeah, thank you. I'm a man of the people. Yet now I could be better than all of them because I have my own microphone.
That's right. And another guy who's got his own microphone. Really, everyone's been upgrading in the last few weeks here. We're really trying to, up the quality a little bit for you guys because, well, if you're going to sit here and listen to us for an hour or so, we may as well try to sound as crystal clear as possible. And Mr. Howie Snowdon. Are you feeling, is your head crystal clear after this debate?
What did you say in the beginning? Is this the 190th debate reaction we've done?
It's not the 190th debate reaction, but it definitely feels like it.
It definitely feels like it.
Well, we actually just finished watching the Democratic debate, but we're going to loop back around and talk to that later on because there were actually a good number of political debates this week. There were actually 3 presidential debates. Most people might not even realize there was another one, but of course we had the wild anti-Trump fest as the Republican debate this past Thursday. And prior to that, the weekend prior, there was actually a little-known libertarian debate that was put on by the Libertarian Party of Missouri, and as you might say if you're from that area. And, a lot of people criticize this debate, myself included somewhat, because I'm an audio video guy. And if you're, or just a regular person even who likes to watch TV, you might have been disappointed by the quality of the debate. It was streamed on YouTube and it's one camera. So you just see a podium with all 5 guys. Audio wasn't the best. It was kind of low budget, very low budget, like the kind of thing you might expect to see on, public access. So, there's good reasons to criticize that. But at the same time, you got to kind of take things in perspective. This is like a local state party who wanted to put on a debate, and they probably had, a place to do it and not that much money. And someone suggested they stream it online. So they did what they could to get it online. And for the fact is, we don't really get libertarian debates online at all or anywhere that we get to see. So I do give them credit for doing it. I mean, it's not necessarily production quality I'd want to share with the world. I might not say, hey, everybody, look at what the Libertarian Party put on. But it was good to actually see these guys interacting and actually put some names and faces together with their statements of these candidates that we've started to hear about over the last few months. So,
well, you raise a good point there. Like you said, I don't know if I necessarily want people seeing that audio quality.
Which is not a good sign if you're afraid to share the debate of the party
exactly.
that's supposedly maybe representing your views the closest with people.
Well, if the people in the debate, which were 5 of the leading candidates for the Libertarian Party, knew just how crappy the audio and video would be, I bet they would have raised a little bit of a stink about it because, it makes the entire party look bad. This is the debate you're having with all your candidates, and this is the product you're putting out. I mean, Marty McFly's video camera in Back to the Future, where he's taping the Palestinians chasing around in the terrorist van, had better quality than this. It was awful.
It was the Libyans.
You couldn't even see who was talking half the time.
It was
you know
Libyans.
what? I have a suggestion.
Oh, sorry, Libyans. You're correct. Yes. The Libyans. This was apropos nowadays.
Sorry, I'm a stickler for 80s movie facts.
As you should.
I've got a suggestion for our listeners. If they don't want to watch this poor quality audio and video debate, a lot of these candidates have already been on the Lions of Liberty podcast. I might as well go to the
Howie coming in with the plugs.
Listen to who would you interview? You interviewed McAfee, you intervied Austin Peterson, Steve.
Howie, you're just giving me more work to do because now I got to link to all this stuff in the show notes. No, but I interviewed John McAfee. I've interviewed Austin Peterson, who I'm actually going to have back on the show in a couple of weeks because when I interviewed him, it was before he was a presidential candidate. So I'm actually going to put him up to the fire of some of my own questions that I want to dig into, but also some of our listeners' questions. So if you have a question for Austin Peterson, this would be a good time to drop me an email, Marc, M-A-R-C, at lionsofliberty.com, and I can use your question on the show. Or why don't you come over and join the conversation in the Lions of Liberty forum on Facebook? Just type Lions of Liberty forum into your little search bar there, and you should find it, and we'll let you write in as long as you don't look too terribly creepy. So come on over. All right.
Comments about the Libertarian.
Rico is so thrown off by being in the studio where this is taking place. He's looking around in wonder.
Surfing the internet when I'm not talking, but I can't do that.
He's used to watching porn while he records.
Because the teacher's overlooking my shoulder. But the non-professional atmosphere or the quality of the tape seemed to kind of lead into the opening statements, which they were asked why they were a good candidate to be president, and I don't know if they were really taking it seriously. McAfee, I don't remember exactly what he said, but it seemed to be more of a joke, like his wife would be mad at him if he didn't win.
He said, he spent so much time on this, like his wife would be really pissed off if he didn't win, which is like kind of funny, but it's not really saying anything about why we should support
Gary Johnson, I think it was, he said, well, I've ran Ironman. I've flown balloons competitively. Is that a thing?
I did not know that.
Apparently, you could be in balloon races.
I thought ballooning was like just a peaceful activity you did on a lazy Sunday. And
Gary Johnson
competitively, he threw down
throwing his hat into the ring for the remake of Around the World in 80 Days.
Which, I mean, I'd like to get.
Now I would watch that. John McAfee traveling around the world, and not John McAfee. Gary. Actually, screw it. Put them both in the balloon. John McAfee, Gary Johnson, Jackie Chan in a balloon going around the world in 80 days.
And Bernie Sanders flying around throwing money to everybody, taxpayer money, just dropping it from the balloon.
If you're watching that and you go in with an open mind, I think after 5 minutes, you're like, okay, this is kind of a joke. And there was substance later on, but just the opening doesn't really give you a whole lot of confidence in the party as a whole. At least that was my take.
Right. Well, let's just quickly run through real quick, first of all, for those who haven't seen it, those that might not be familiar with the candidates, just who is up there. Now, this is actually part 2 of the debate. Part 1 was, I guess, really bad quality. And based on what some people told me, I didn't watch part 1. But basically, they had a short debate with 11 people all up there making some statements. And then they did a token thing where you voted on who you liked the best, the people in the audience. And then the top 5 out of that were the ones that got to stay up on stage for that second part that we all watched. So the top 5 were Gary Johnson, known as the former Republican governor of New Mexico. He ran for the Republican nomination 4 years ago for about 2 weeks, then dropped out when he got dropped from the debates and ran as Libertarian. So he's the guy that many have seen as the favorite, as the front runner. We also have John McAfee, of course, past Lions of Liberty podcast guest, renowned cybersecurity expert, and generally thought of as a bit of a wackadoo. But when you actually listen to him speak, both in this debate and when I had him on my interview, I mean, he has these videos online where he's telling you how to uninstall McAfee antivirus and snorting cocaine with a bunch of like strippers around him. But when he's actually talking one-on-one about issues, he doesn't sound nearly as crazy as he's portrayed, or even as he portrays himself, in my view. Then you got Austin Peterson, who is basically Well, we'll talk about him. He's, like I said, he's been on the show before, so you can listen to my interview with him. He is a self-proclaimed minarchist, but to me, he's kind of comes across as sort of the most Republican seeming in this group, and we can address that more in a bit too.
I think he's the Marco Rubio of the Libertarian Party.
Okay, that's possible. He's definitely got, I think they're close in age. I think Austin just turned 36 or something like that. And then you had a couple guys on the end, both literally and probably just in the way they're perceived. A gentleman by the name of Dr. Mark Allen Feldman, who has not responded to any requests to appear on the Lions of Liberty podcast, so he immediately loses points in my eyes. And I didn't really get much out of him. We can maybe address that, his situation in a bit. And then also on the other end, we had Daryl Perry, the self-proclaimed anarchist, who was proving this to everybody by, while everyone else is wearing a nice suit on stage, he was just wearing all black. So there you go, to prove that he is an anarchist.
He must have been so angry that he didn't get the lead in the new Steve Jobs movie when they made it.
Well, he has long hair and a ponytail, so I don't think that was going to work out for him.
Yeah, when he started talking, I made one note, literally one note about Perry watching that.
I have one
debate.
too. Let's see if it's the same.
Or actually, it's okay. Two notes. I lied. But the first one was, he opened up saying we need to totally disband the government, and I was like, he has no chance. There's no point in even really. I mean, look, I understand people are anarchists and we all want small government, but just saying blankly if I'm president, I'll disband the government. It's ridiculous. And anybody is just immediately going to be like, no, thanks a lot. Go back to your shack.
Brian, does anybody in that debate have any chance, though?
Well, maybe not in the general election, but they have. I think some people have a chance to grow the party and get maybe the 5% that they're aiming for, and I don't think he does.
Yeah, there's a kind of a building block you'd like to see, and I think Daryl Perry actually was advocating for secession, which, always has a possibility to end up violent, if you want to look back in history. So that's not really the route I see as far as the best potential to grow the party. But
he also proclaimed the U.S. government to be the greatest terrorist organization in the world, which I understand the rhetoric. The U.S. government and the military does often participate in atrocities. They often fund governments that do terrible things. There's legitimacy to that argument, but not really a presidential sounding phrase. That's what I'm going to say about that. Do you guys think that would make much of a bumper sticker like Perry 2016? While running to be leader of the greatest terrorist organization in the world.
Well, you know what? He's probably going to kill it in the Iran elections. I can't wait to see how he does. He'll be the new Shah in no time.
Platform. Yeah.
And he actually said whenever he answered questions, he would say, well, first of all, if I could even bring myself to put my hand up and agree to the Constitution, because I don't believe in that thing at all. It's like, okay, well, all right. Maybe you should be looking into a different job. Perhaps Radio Shack would be more up your alley than something that so much contradicts your beliefs. But
yeah, exactly.
Look, there's a lot of people I've had on my show that call themselves anarchists that have that conversation. I think that discussion is perfectly legitimate in all the ways we can do things without government, and that is one thing. But to come across like this, it's not a winning strategy, even in the Libertarian Party. Although he did make the vote of the top 5, so at least some percentage. I believe I saw the numbers. I believe 15% had voted in the people literally in that group in that party that were at the debate voted for Perry, which is what got him in that top 5. So there's a wing out there.
Well, there's always going to be somebody that's like, you know what, screw it, blow it all up. Who gives a damn? But as you said,
those people just didn't vote then.
You would think, but I guess maybe for the Libertarian Party they do.
They're the neckbeards that Austin Peterson's always talking about.
Does anyone get to vote for the Libertarian candidate, or is it just the people that are at the convention?
It's the delegates, right?
Okay, so
there's no primary. There is no, quote, popular vote for the Libertarian Party.
I saw that they were on the ballot in 3 states. So I'm like, well, what, 3 states? Does that even matter? What you
mean, a primary ballot?
Yeah, there's 3 states. A couple of libertarian.
There might be state parties that maybe they have gotten primary ballot access, and just do it, to show. He won this poll vote in our state. Maybe they do that, but it's not even that. Definitely isn't binding because it's 100% based on the votes of the delegates at the convention. Which, by the way, I would like to plug our good friends at the Johnny Rocket Launchpad because they are traveling to the Libertarian Party National Convention and are going to be doing some reporting from there. So maybe we will have them on for from location or something.
Yeah,
are they going to be delegates at it?
That I don't know. I believe Heather Nixon might be or is attempting to be. So
excellent.
So that would be.
So then who? Let's go through. I mean, I don't know if everybody here, if we all did watch it from start
I
to
think
finish.
we've tackled Perry well enough.
Yeah, we tackled. I was say, who did you guys like? Because there were a couple of people I liked, and one guy I definitely didn't like. I mean, I think
before we move on to then, I just want to give one shout out to someone who was not on stage, and that's Steve Kerbell, guy who is on this show as well. And he was in the hospital with some health troubles, and that's why he wasn't there. And I think he would be in the top 5 because he actually has a good amount of support in the Libertarian Party, from what I've been hearing. So shout out to Steve Kerbell. And what is a travesty is that he's not being invited to this John Stossel debate, which hopefully we'll be gathering a crew to cover in a couple of weeks. But we'll get into that stuff down the road. Moving along, who do you like? I just wanted to give a shout out to my man.
I'll say I had a couple of notes for each of these people. So I'll just start with obviously McAfee. I'm a fan. I like McAfee, even though he had a couple things he didn't exactly answer the questions about 9/11 to the purpose where I thought they were adequate. Like he kind of went into cyber warfare.
Was it who did 9/11?
No, they're like, what would your response be? Yeah, what would your response be to 9/11? And he went off on this tangent about cyber warfare,
didn't he?
What's that?
Wasn't Gary Johnson or didn't he go Chris Christie on it?
Gary Johnson said, let me see here. He said Gary Johnson went off about saying like he would fly across the world to stop it immediately if it happened and go after the people that did it. But he also, I think, said that he would want to only target the people who specifically did it or something. I'm trying to remember exactly what he said.
He said he had a close personal connection to 9/11.
Oh, well, yeah, he said that
Wait a minute. Did Gary Johnson do 9/11?
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
Was he a prosecutor?
No, I'll tell you exactly.
He was changed too. Gary Johnson did
ridiculous. He said that the plane, like the Pennsylvania plane that crashed down, that they brought down around Pittsburgh, he said that flew roughly over the area he lived in, and that was his personal connection. It's like, if that plane had crashed slightly earlier and exactly on my house, my kids could have been killed.
Wow.
All right, awkward silence. But that's literally what he said. It's a ridiculous response.
I voted for Gary Johnson last election, but I kind of feel like he's half-assing it this time. I'd like to go with somebody else myself. I kind of like McAfee, he's not 100% a libertarian, but he's kind of like Gary Johnson. He's got the stature. I think he can get some attention and bring some light to the issues when he's not doing crazy shit and he's actually talking about things. He does come across pretty well spoken, and he has a cybersecurity plan, which, I wish all of the other candidates did. That's going to be a huge issue moving forward.
No, that's true. And,
I mean, I know McAfee did say that it was just it was basically a failure of national security, and if he was in charge, he would be able to tackle. He somehow tied it into China and the cybersecurity war that he's always talking about. So he kind of did play up the hey, if you want security, I'm your guy out of that 9/11 thing.
He comes across as very Trump-esque to me in a way. I mean, and not necessarily in a bad way, but when he was talking about his media experience and how he could get media with a snap of his fingers, and how he had all this business experience and blah, blah, blah. So he really reminds me of Trump in his mannerisms and kind of his cockiness on stage, and dropping the fact that he has all this experience with, A, B, and C, kind of lord that over people.
Yeah, he does to me too, but I think that's an asset. I actually think that would help just to bring light to,
But he didn't talk about the size of his schlong at all.
Not yet. Well, wait till Stossel.
That difference. Yeah, he might be saving that one.
Streusels on Stossels. That's what we could call it. What's the size of your streusel?
Oh, boy.
There's your cold open.
I think I'm going off the rails.
McAfee would be all about the rails.
I think that our listeners should all tweet John Stossel and try to get Steve Kerbell in that debate.
I actually did tweet John Stossel and say he should get Steve Kerbell on that debate. So did you see me do that? Is that why you're saying that?
I did not. But
wow. Well,
I'm glad you did.
Well, go back it up then, because I already did it.
Nice.
But no, Steve's a good guy. He should be in this debate. And, I think they're just putting in, for that Fox Business debate, I think they're just putting in Peterson, Johnson, and McAfee because they're just seeing them as the guys that will look good on TV. I don't know how else to phrase it. I think that's what they're just going for. A acceptable debate, basically. Plus, and a guy in McAfee that they see as eccentric and will draw. They're going for pure ratings and not necessarily being fair. And I guess that's probably every debate.
Yeah,
What
pretty
about
much.
Austin Peterson's claim, something along the lines of he's responsible for bringing more people to the libertarian movement than anyone else in recent memory.
Yeah, more than Ron Paul.
Yeah,
Or
that's what my first thought was. Like, well,
Austin came across as very, like, he really wanted to drive home that he's patriotic. He said, I love this country from sea to shining sea. And he kept speaking in this, like, overly bombastic, like, I don't know what he's trying to come across, like this, almost like a caricature of a presidential candidate, or like a Republican candidate. It was kind of strange. And he just, he emphasized restore the republic, and he really pushed down that he's the only pro-lifer in the group. And
Yeah, he wanted to woo evangelicals. That actually annoyed the crowd.
It seemed
He
more
said he didn't
like
want
he
a
was-
coalition with them.
like the best Republican than the best Libertarian, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
exactly right. And also, did you guys catch this? Going back to 9/11, because I have a lot of notes that I talked about it for a while. Did you hear him say, like, he was talking about how he wanted the free market to take care of terrorism, and basically was talking about, like, putting bounties on people's heads?
Hey, I'm cool with that.
Did you guys hear that part, though?
Yeah, it's in the Constitution. It was Ron Paul's suggestion too. To go
I just
for Bin
was
Laden.
like, I'm not necessarily against it, but I was very surprised to hear him say it.
Is
Although
that like
wouldn't necessarily-
the letters of marque and check or
yeah,
something?
the letters of marque and reprisal.
Yeah, my question on that, though, is,
Better
we're
than
talking
like
about
bombing the
Obama.
shit out of a country and occupying it for 10 years.
Well, listen though. Here's my problem with that, though. Even if it's in the Constitution, we talk about how Obama's using drones to take people out, and there's no trials taking place. So, I mean, is that the same thing that he's advocating for? It's just with bounties instead of using drones.
I'm not sure what. Maybe our legal counsel can shed light. I don't know. I don't know how much you know about letters of marque and reprisal in law school. How much
it
they
was not a subject we
like. I don't know if there's
a whole
what the
lot of
legal
time
process
on.
is. Like, does there have to be a prosecution?
I think it was basically about piracy.
It was, yeah.
Which, can be kind of extrapolated to terrorism, but there would
It
be,
can.
Warrants issued.
But there's for
certain
specific people, right?
Yeah. And, basically a bounty would be placed and people would, try to collect on it. So
This sounds kind of fun.
I mean, why not? It's probably
Sign me up.
cheaper than sending a military over. If you got some kind of retired special forces.
And if these are like private groups, I think that go on these missions to bounty collect, they should be held accountable for any damage they do. They should be not receive the kind of, if the U.S. government goes in and destroys 3 villages searching for a guy, there is no one that's going to be held accountable. I'm not saying in our current system some private company or whatever would, because in our current system they wouldn't either. But ideally, you hold everybody responsible for their actions, and don't just say, the U.S. government has this clause where they can do whatever and they get away with it. Like, I mean, that's pretty much what happens in Iraq. I mean, they signed over to Blackwater. Well, we won't prosecute you guys if you do anything bad. So rape away, fellas.
It seems to me it would be more of a cost-effective solution, though, because you're not paying an occupying force anymore. If people are going to collect on bounties, they're going to have to put up kind of their own time and expense to get them, and they're going to have to calculate, well, do we have a good chance? Are we going to collect on this? If so, make it worth their time and effort. So,
I agree with you there. I wonder, here's a question for you. Would it be something that would be fully transparent where we all know who the bounties are, or is it something that's going to be done in backroom, FISA courts?
I'm sure you'd have to say, well, this is what the bounty is to really be.
Yeah, you should put it out there for everybody.
How else will the bounty hunters know?
I mean, let's not kid. They're already doing this with, the U.S. has already used assassins many a time to take people out. So that's already done and out there. But yeah, I guess I'm saying, would it be public is it a cattle call where they're like, hey, go get this guy. We'll pay $1 million. Go shoot him in the head.
Like Back to the Future 3, where they had Mad Dog Tannen's picture on the poster.
That's 2 Back to the Future references for you people playing at home.
We just need to get 2 in.
Back to the Future.
We cover the first.
Here, I'll get it in right now. You wanted these. I was grabbing my
I got a second because in Back to the Future 2, Biff Tannen is basically Donald Trump. And they even said that he's based on Donald Trump. So boom.
What?
Totally.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
Yes.
Wow.
Bingo. We did it, gang. Bingo.
We did it, guys.
Literally.
We referenced all 3 Back to the Future movies.
Right.
Good
See you
night.
later.
Good night.
We should wrap that. Yeah, go out on a high
should
note.
probably
Thanks,
wrap.
everybody, for listening.
Anyway, sorry if you tuned in for anything about the Democrat or Republican debates, but
Or libertarian debate, as we're talking about. By the way, let me correct myself real quick. We talked about Johnson, but I had the wrong note. Johnson actually had a very good comment about 9/11. He said that the U.S. is creating a new 9/11 every few months in the Middle East, and that we're continuing a cycle as we have for decades, or I think he said centuries, of international cause and effect, reaction and action type of deal meddling over there, which I thought was a pretty interesting answer.
Winner. That is a good answer.
Yeah.
All right. Let's not spend too much time here because we do have a couple more debates to touch on, but let's just do a quick, first of all, we haven't mentioned Mark Allen Feldman, so I'm guessing that means he made no impression on anybody.
I liked him.
You did like him. Okay.
I actually really liked Feldman. He
didn't
didn't
really make much of an impression on me.
Really? See, for me, I thought he was pretty well put together. He had a little bit of an over exuberant initial response to 9/11 saying we would have an awesome military response. But he said he would never have a preemptive war, which that's good. And he also said that he'd rather be dropping basically instead of bombs, culture bombs, aqua Buddha bombs. No, he'd be, more like win the hearts and minds type of idea, which I agree with completely, is that by winning over the cultures of places and changing the culture, you do a lot more to change the relationship between countries than you would by bombing somebody and occupying them and forcing them to comply. And then he also had a good point. An interesting point in immigration. A lot of the people called for open borders, but I like that he just said literally, he's like, they say you can't have open borders and a welfare state. I say, good, open the borders and watch the welfare state fall apart.
Can I introduce a few fun facts about Mark Feldman?
Yep, you sure can.
First,
definitely.
He is from, like John Kasich, he's from the great state of Ohio.
OH!
Second, he ran for the Ohio State treasurer a few years ago, but failed to collect enough signatures to get on the ballot.
Ouch.
But he made the main stage for the Libertarian Debate, so that's good. And third, it says he's never bothered to register to vote until he was 50. So he's well in tune with the political process.
Hashtag Feldman Facts. This will be a weekly segment. We're going to bring you on. And until he comes on the show to answer all of my questions about him, we're just going to give you random facts about him every week. I just decided that right now. Okay.
Your Feldman moment.
Let's try to move beyond this Libertarian debate. Let's just do quickly. I'll ask each of you guys just who came across the best to you guys and who. Well, I'm pretty sure I don't know what we all agree on. So who do you think should not even be running and should not be there, would actually make the party and libertarianism look bad? And who do you think should be the nominee just based solely on this appearance and based on these five guys, even though there are other guys in there that we might find out about later on. So Howie, we'll start in Leesburg since you're on the East Coast and you got to get to bed soonest.
Yeah, just based on the way they come across on the media, I would have to say, Gary Johnson or John McAfee would need to be the spokesperson for the movement right now out of those five guys based on that performance.
All right, Brian.
I totally agree with Howie. It's got to be McAfee or Johnson. Johnson, he actually grew on me a little bit, even though I can't support him because he's been out there so much. It's like, all right, you've had your shot. So I would say McAfee, put him out there, and I think Perry should be dropped. He's so far out of what mainstream people can even contemplate. It would be pointless and a detriment to the party to trot him out.
Rico.
I don't see Daryl Perry going anywhere. I don't see Fun Facts Feldman going anywhere.
How dare you? I told you.
But there's so many facts about me.
He's carved out a place in my heart. He looks like Myrtle the Turtle.
I agree with you about, or Howie and Brian about McAfee and Johnson being the likely, but I think Peterson seems to be the most, I don't know if I should say polished, or at least taking it the most serious based upon the performance.
He seemed like he really had scripted answers, which might make him seem like he seemed like the most already a politician, I guess I would say.
And I think that's probably going to serve him going forward.
But will it serve him with this crowd, with the Libertarian Party? Because that's all that matters, really, because it's these delegates.
Does it matter with the party or with the delegates? Because if he's...
Well, the delegates are party members.
Maybe he's got that Rand Paul organization boots on the ground.
You better hope he doesn't have that Rand Paul organization, because that went nowhere.
I don't know. I find Austin Peterson to be, I probably should have said some coming on the show, but he came across to me as incredibly unlikable in this debate.
He can take criticism. And that's all you said was unlikable. He calls people douchebag neckbeards. So I think
that's true. But he just came across as very, very condescending and just super douchey to me. I really didn't like him. And I also was pissed off because everybody else came out against the drug war when they were talking about prisons. And he was the only one that didn't bring up the drug war as a cause for a lot of people being in prisons.
Interesting.
But
that to me. That's a good point.
I don't know. I think he needs to cool it down a little bit. I think he's going to put people off.
I feel like
maybe down the road a bit when he's had a chance to ripen.
A little like just too really wanted to prove that he was a presidential candidate more than just being up there and calmly answering questions. He felt too rehearsed to me.
Yeah.
overall.
He
To
also
answer,
kept jumping in on people too. Like there was a moment I think he and Gary Johnson were going about, and he was like, pulling a Rubio on Trump move, or where he's like breaking
Gary Johnson quite a bit on the Facebooks.
No, like, well, he was
He's
attacking him in the debate too, like breaking in.
Yeah,
Which again was very annoying because you couldn't tell who the fuck was talking during this thing. So it takes you like somebody speaks and you're trying to squint at this tiny head to figure out whose mouth is moving.
Which tiny pixelated mouth is moving?
They look like Tecmo Bowl players. I was like,
but it's covered by his facial hair, so I'm not sure. Hey, is Feldman's mouth moving, or is that just his weird twitch? Anyway, I do kind of like John McAfee, but if I'm going to be serious here for a moment. Rico gets my inside jokes. The whole I have questions about this murder thing. I don't necessarily think he did it. I kind of do buy his story that the Belizean government had it out for him. But
I'm glad you don't necessarily buy that he murdered someone.
Yeah, no, I which is my point, that because of that like big question out there that a lot of people do believe he killed somebody, he just might not be the best person to put up there. Unfairly so, quite possibly. I'm just trying to be realistic here. That's all. So for that, I think that's what tilts things in favor of Gary Johnson. And because I feel like Gary Johnson maybe just knows more about the ideas of liberty and a lot of those concepts, whereas McAfee kind of just jumped onto this libertarian bandwagon because he saw it as the best chance of getting on the ballot in all 50 states. Although he does have a lot of positions that line up very well. Not everyone needs to be, reading freaking Murray Rothbard till 3 a.m. every night. So, I mean, that he doesn't need to be some Puritan to come across well. So, I mean, I think McAfee is like my 1A, but I mean, Johnson, I think out of these guys, after really watching them here, and we'll learn more when we see him debating over the next few months, but I think I still see Johnson as my numero uno.
No, Johnson is, I agree with you, far and away the most polished. His positions are good. His speaking points are very good. Again, I think it's like 3 strikes and you're out. It's like,
that's all. He only has 1 strike. He only ran one other time. So
all right,
he's got another strike.
I guess I just heard about him so much in the past few years that I'm just like, Gary Johnson's old hat.
The internet is crazy, and they've been talking about him for 4 years. But
all right, well, I'll change my vote then. I will also support Gary Johnson then of this crop.
He's winning the Lions of Liberty straw poll right now that the covenant.
It's very important. And did Perry get 15% again?
What's that?
Oh, never mind. It was a libertarian straw poll joke.
Okay.
Out of us? Is any of us for Perry?
No, nobody is.
Okay, good.
All right, let's move along because we did have what some would call a Republican debate earlier this week. But to me, this was very clearly the let's take Trump down. We have to take him down before this shit gets out of control show. There was no other reason for this debate. I'm surprised Trump didn't boycott it like he boycotted the last one. Obviously didn't hurt him. He went and swept Super Tuesday not long after it. So I don't even know why he attended this debate, but clearly Fox and Megyn Kelly were under, marching orders.
I may have to disagree with you.
Okay. Well,
because
this is just my
timeline is off.
Well,
he did well on Super Tuesday.
Yeah, I wasn't.
Then he went to the debate, which he should not have done.
No. But the Fox debate was before Super Tuesday, the first one that he skipped.
How many? Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah.
But I don't think this last debate helped him at all.
No, it didn't at all.
Looking yesterday, definitely didn't serve his campaign well. So I believe Cruz won Kansas, he won Maine, and Trump did worse than, he won Louisiana, but not nearly as, and Kentucky, but not nearly as solidly as.
He won the Kentucky caucus that Rand Paul paid for.
Yeah.
How many Brussels are bristling from that? I don't even know what that means.
I just wanted his speech to be like, "Hey Rand, you like apples? How you like these apples?"
I mean, that's just. I mean, it's especially considering Donald Trump was Rand Paul's primary target during the campaign. It's got to kind of burn that he's paying for the caucus that Donald Trump is going to.
I would go more with the what Shaq said to Kobe all those years ago, which probably is not fit for.
Well, we're explicit today, so go on.
Oh, well,
I don't even know this. I've
already dropped 2 F-bombs. Go for it.
When he dropped the rap "How's my ass taste" to Kobe after he won the championship with Miami. So that was pleasant. But
that was a little vulgar, but I will admit.
Why did Trump do this debate? It only seemed to. it made no sense for him to be in it. After,
well, he definitely walked into an ambush. I mean, Fox had graphics ready and waiting to spring his, like, especially with the, talking about making up the budget and his proposals there. They nailed him on. And yeah, I don't know why he did it either. It seems like, especially with the number of debates they're doing, if I was Donald, I'd be skipping every other one for sure.
Especially because he's already got this one where everyone knows about this feud with Megyn Kelly. They know he boycotted the last debate because of Megyn Kelly. He's got the built-in reason. It's not a random debate. He already had the reason to skip this one. So who knows? Maybe he's just feeling overconfident. He's won all these states. He's leading in delegates, and he said, "All right, I'll go in there." And he did not come across well. This is the first time he didn't seem entirely Teflon to me. And I think it's very clear that everyone else has just dropped their arguments against each other, dropped everything. This is the anyone but Trump party right now. That's their only goal, and that's why they're all in it. That's why I don't think Kasich is going to drop out, even because he's collecting some delegates, even if he's not winning states. Rubio, Cruz, they each have some sort of wing of the Republican Party that's inclined to vote for them, and they're all going to try to keep those demographics, I guess, from going to Trump, because I don't know how it's going to pan out, because Trump is, I think, clearly going to win the popular vote. So does the Republican Party just clearly take the nomination from him by colluding and having three guys who didn't get nearly the support that he the combining to anoint someone else or anoint one of them as the candidate at the convention? These are not real questions. They're just rhetorical ones. Or does he just steamroll and do they finally concede? And then do people start hopping on board like Chris Christie did? I don't know, but this is crazy. I mean, the whole
Cruz is really close in delegates. Cruz is 300 right now, and Trump has 384. If Rubio were to get out and put a support behind Cruz, if stopping Trump was their big thing, I mean, they could maybe do it. But for some reason, I don't see Rubio getting out.
I think this is a question for Rubio: is he going to stay in and fall on the sword, so to speak, with the off chance that he somehow pulls out Florida? Because he's getting crushed in Florida to Trump right now. And, there's been a lot of talk. If he stays in, he gets crushed in Florida. Well, his political future is not very good.
And I think the only path left in politics for him is like governor of Florida.
Yeah, and so he doesn't want to have that crushing defeat in his home state to Trump and then try to move forward in politics. But on the other hand, the best chance for a non-Trump Republican is for Rubio to stay in and try to pull off the miracle and get the Florida delegates. And once Florida's, then Rubio's done. He's got nothing else after Florida. His campaign's pretty much over. But does he stay in and risk ruining the rest of his political career just to take out Trump?
I think right now every one of these guys is under, not to be a backroom smoky cigar conspiracy theorist, but I think these all guys are not going anywhere now. I think this is the four. I don't think anyone's dropping out. Carson was the last guy that was just irrelevant completely. Kasich, you could argue to an extent. Maybe Kasich will drop out and get back Rubio. I could see that, but I don't think it's going to coalesce around one of Rubio or Cruz.
I think Kasich's purpose is similar to Rubio's, and stay in, try to win Ohio, keep that from Trump, and then he becomes irrelevant too.
And then the idea, I guess, would be don't allow Trump to win on that first vote, because if you have the pledged delegates on the first vote, you win. So they want to prevent that many pledged delegates from going to Trump. And then once they get into other rounds, as delegates become released and unpledged, they would hope that they have enough party cronies among those actual delegates to just, all collectively decide we're going to give it to Rubio or maybe Mitt Romney, Howie's prediction from months ago.
Is there any doubt that Trump would not win a contested contested debate, or I'm sorry,
a broker convention?
Yeah, broker convention. I've blanked on the word, but there's no way he'd win a brokered convention. And I think that's what they're.
I don't know. He's the big negotiator, right? Okay. Shouldn't that be his number one strength?
It'd be nice to see him if they did screw him over. They'll run as an independent and just help tear apart the two-party system.
Would he have enough time in July to get on in the ballots as an independent in 50 states? That's going to take a lot of. I think you even have to do it in some states. Well, I guess most people don't get on the ballot until after their convention, so that's probably not until August, September. I mean, maybe it is theoretically possible, but I feel like you'd have to have some wheels in motion before that before July.
He might not even be trying to win, but just to get on enough to just hurt the Republicans, just to screw them over.
Or the conspiracy is true, and he's there to help Hillary become president.
Could you imagine that? If that
if it's true.
That would have been would be the biggest thing that's ever happened in history.
What if Hillary named him for vice president?
Be awesome.
Mind blown.
Oh boy! All right. So what stands out from this debate? I mean, to me, were there any major issues? I think okay.
No, right? Nothing changed. We've heard literally watching this debate, and before everybody spoke, I was like, I know what he's going to say on this topic. Nothing was new. There were no revelations made during this debate. That's why I don't get why they keep having these every 4 fucking days, because nothing new is coming out
to make you angry.
Well, it's working. They're firing me up
for ratings. The ratings are doing great on these debates, probably because of Donald Trump.
I'm boycotting the next one. I'm not watching it.
I mean,
well, you're hosting the show about it, so hopefully you're not entirely boycotting.
Am I?
But we can talk about that off air.
I could not believe that he brought up his dick size. My girlfriend had got down to put the laundry in the dryer. I remember just yelling downstairs, like, honey, you got to come up here. Trump's talking about his cock.
Well, we're talking about how Howie's calling her honey already, guys.
Oh, God, yeah. Congrats on your 2-month relationship. But yeah, didn't Rubio start that, though?
Well, Rubio made a reference about his hand size.
His hands, yeah.
But I think that's kind of an implication about the other thing, isn't it?
Yeah, no, totally. It totally was. So Rubio everybody's talking about Trump talking about his dick size, but Rubio is really to blame for this whole thing getting started. And I think that came up. Did Trump start calling Marco Little Rubio and Little Marco before or after the dick thing?
I think after. I think Rubio really hurt himself that night. It seemed like it was his job to go after Trump, but getting involved in that back and forth, I think, hurt him pretty bad. Cruz was able to, he stayed out of most of it, and I think that debate, that helped him the most.
I think Cruz almost came off in the Donald Trump role where he was kind of speaking down to Trump and he kind of condescending.
Count to 10, Donald. Count to 10.
Yeah, it was like he was treating him like a little kid, which was how Trump usually treats everyone, and perhaps he was stealing some of Trump's mojo.
Maybe. Well, this is the only time I saw Trump really get rattled, was this debate.
Cruz was really laying on thick the Americana. He was saying this campaign is for the single moms, the truck drivers, the steel workers, the mechanics with the calluses on their hands, the students with their college debt. Like, he was going full on populist for a minute there.
God knows guys who got scholarships for debate to go to Harvard or whatever it was are all for the common man, the pipe workers' calluses.
Should be scholarships to go to Trump University. We should give one out. That should be a prize.
I told you I want an honorary doctorate from Trump U. I would do anything to get one. Anything.
All right, the offer's out there, Donald. You can get an official endorsement from Brian McWilliams.
Oh, done and done. I'll hand stitch him an endorsement.
How much does an honorary diploma cost to issue? You know,
nothing. It costs free to him.
Hopefully, it doesn't make you drop to your knees like Mitt Romney.
Oh, hey now.
There goes a chance to get Mitt on this.
So, do you guys think that there is any legitimacy to this idea that we do need to stop Trump because he is uniquely worse than everybody else? Because this seems to be something I hear a lot, and there's one thing that was said in this debate that does lend a little bit of credence to that argument, and that is when they brought up torture and they said, do you support torture? Will you, when referring to waterboarding? And he says, absolutely. We should bring back waterboarding. He said this before. I'll be tougher than ever on these guys, on these terrorists, even though he's not talking about people that have had trials or anything like that. So who knows that they're terrorists? And then they say, but you're going to ask the military to do illegal things if you're going to advocate they do that. And to that, he said, oh, don't worry. They'll listen to me because I'm a leader. And that's what people do. They follow leaders. So, I mean, he did immediately the next day back down on that, and he said, yeah, I'm aware that there are laws that make certain things war crimes, and I would never ask people to do anything that was illegal. So he already backed down on it. But I mean, should we be more afraid of Trump because of statements like that?
Well, it just makes you think that he's a lot. Again, he says these things which I don't even know if he necessarily believes. We talked about this before too. I think he just says stuff. I don't think he even believes it. He just gets it out there, throws it out there, see how it does, gets a reaction. He's like, okay, I got to bring that back now. Never mind. People aren't digging that one. It's like the wall thing. There's no way a wall is ever going to get built. There's just no fucking way. But he keeps saying it because it's getting good reaction. The torture thing, maybe in the same vein. Maybe he's trying to play up the Christie people who are all about, 9/11 rhetoric and going after the terrorists and yada, yada, yada. So maybe that was his bone he's throwing to them. So whether or not you should take it seriously, I mean, you can't not, but I still just don't believe that he even believes what he's saying.
I think he's trying to spew machismo. He's trying to be the tough guy, the leader, the guy people are going to listen to, the guy who will be hard on terrorists, and whatever he has to say to sound like that is fine because he's the master persuader and he says big, bold things, and it makes the conversation entirely about him. And this is just an analytical view of his strategy, but that's clearly what he tries to do. And he's fine backing down. He even said that in the debate. He said, I'm flexible. I'll be flexible on things. I'm a negotiator. He even says this. He lays it out right for you. He's not, I mean, it's all right there if you're listening.
Right. And he knows that he'll get massive press coverage. Okay. He throws that out there. Then he says, all right, now I'm going to change my mind and bring it back. And he knows he'll get massive press coverage on the fact that he then brought it back and said, I would never ask our military to do something unethical. So he's playing both sides of the game. So is Trump worse, do you think, than these other guys because of this stuff? Or do you think it's just he stands for what they stand for, but says it louder? Every debate, I go back and forth on who's worse, whether it's Trump or somebody else. I mean, did Kasich win any points here? I don't know. If we're asking who's the worst, I don't know. Who's the best? I don't know. They're all pretty crap at this point. But John Kasich did once balance the budget. Yes. In where? Ohio. In the United States, in the federal budget is what he's referring to. Did he really do that? I thought he was just talking about his state. He's been talking about it for 5 months, Brian. I started zoning out, I think.
I do have a fun fact about John Kasich, if I may.
This guy is just here with all the fun facts. This is great.
Best friends with Feldman in high school.
They were on the track team together.
As we all know, John Kasich is from Ohio, but the fun fact... The fun fact for John is that he once was at a Blockbuster and someone told him, rent Fargo. Did anyone hear the story?
No, please continue. Okay, I'm already intrigued.
Him and his wife watched Fargo and they were told it was a comedy and they were disgusted by it. And they returned it and demanded that Blockbuster remove all copies of Fargo from its shelves.
What?
And when they didn't, he followed up numerous times until his wife finally told him, you need to drop this. So
oh my God. You know what?
He reluctantly dropped his crusade to get Fargo out of video stores.
You know what? I used to get so mad at Blockbuster because they had American Ninja 2 and 3, but not the original. I wonder if John Kasich had something to do with it. Not
without a doubt. Ninja 3 was it was advertised as a comedy, and it was not. It was violent and brutal. Oh my God, that is hilarious.
Michael Dudikoff's best work. Thanks, John Kasich. Maybe, if that was you.
Well, he was awful, though, with his foreign policy, because sometimes he says things that are, you're like, think, okay, that's not that bad. He seems to be kind of, reasonable on certain issues. And then he's like, boots on the ground everywhere. We're going to be arming Ukraine. If anyone attacks any country in NATO, it's an attack on the U.S. All this rhetoric against China and North Korea. It's like, geez.
Yeah, he gets this label as the reasonable one, and I think that's more his demeanor than his actual policy statements, because he literally said he wants to start basically like 3 more wars, like Syria, full-scale war, Iraq, and Ukraine while we're at it. Oh, which means war with Russia, which is also what it means in Syria. So, yeah, let's just basically, he's your World War III candidate right now.
Right.
And yet he comes across as this calm, reasonable gentleman. I mean, he's not winning votes, so I'm not too concerned
and the debate previous to this, though, we were talking about how he had the reasonable foreign policy because he had said he was against. He said he was against regime change and how Assad was better. We should, we shouldn't go and overthrow Assad, and how Saddam was better in the Middle East and the U.S. shouldn't have done that, and regime change was bad. So he keeps going back and forth. He says one thing in one debate, and then the next debate, it's completely opposite. And so he's confusing the living hell out of it.
Yeah, that is what John Kasich does.
He's a monkey wrench.
He's been an interesting fellow, actually, in this campaign. Surprisingly, I didn't even think you'd make it remotely this far.
And I think he's only still there to screw over Trump, or at least
maybe sell some books.
Him and Rubio are there just to prevent Trump from winning the nomination before the convention.
Well, maybe that's why there's so many debates too, is because they're like, the Republicans like, all right, Trump's still polling well. We need about 50 more debates of these guys teaming up on him to really try to tear him down.
It's going to be like when Who Wants to Be a Millionaire first became popular and they went to 5 days a week.
That's exactly.
God, are we going to have nightly Republican debates? Hey, did you guys watch Republican debate last night? No, but I'm going to catch it tonight and catch up.
It'll be like
Monday
NFL
and
practice
Tuesdays tonight, watch
Wednesdays.
Wednesdays. Oh my God.
All right. Are we, anything else? Oh, hold on. We probably should move on to the Democratic debate. But before we do, can I ask everybody this? Because Mark and I had a
guy gets
little
one taste of hosting, and he tells me what we should move on to next.
Well, I'm looking at the clock, man. I'm like, what the hell? It's going to be an hour and 45-minute show. But no, I want to ask everybody this, because Mark and I had a little back and forth about
we did
which candidate has the most annoying voice and the most punchable face?
All right. Well, I already stated in our live blog, which you can find during every debate at lionsofliberty.com, that Ted Cruz, to me, wins both awards. I do not like hearing him speak. It makes me physically angry, and his face just makes me want to hit it. So, yeah. Ted Cruz all gets the full gamut on that one.
I don't see where there's debate against that. So,
all right,
Howie.
I would go with Marco Rubio, actually. Though I mean,
there's a strong argument for Rubio. I can concede that.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Howie.
No, I mean, it's not much to it. I mean, every time he speaks, I want to punch him in the face.
We don't need to elaborate too deeply on these answers. I don't think they require
it's more of a gut reaction.
Much of a soliloquy to best.
I don't know. Ted Cruz, his face is too much like Snape's. I don't want to punch him as much as
good old Severus Cruz. I agree. Marco Rubio to me is the most punchable. I find his entire demeanor obnoxious. I find his voice obnoxious, and his stupid little smug boy face. God, I just hate him so much.
Little Marco. Oh, little Marco.
So he's my most punchable by far. But Cruz is a close second.
Okay.
Now that we got the heavy hitting questions out of the way.
That's what the people want to know, man. That's what's going to be on the forum tomorrow.
So who do you guys think actually benefited from this debate? Because I think we all agree for the first time Trump didn't come out maybe as the winner of this, or as the best. He didn't come out the best from this anyway.
I think Cruz came out the best just by sitting back for most of it, and but also getting the better on Donald in a couple exchanges.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I think we're all losers for this debate, to be honest.
There was 4 losers in the debate, and they're all speaking right now because we had to watch it, and now we have to talk about it. I think Cruz came off the best, just because I think he's pulling up now. Trump's going down a little bit. The other two are basically irrelevant at this point.
Yeah, the thing is, I think Trump's got some of these later states locked up too, though. I think he's going to get New York locked up. I think California's locked up for him. So I think this is all, he's got a little blip in his radar, but that's, I mean, the states he's losing right now are like the states you would think he would lose. So I don't know. I think he's unstoppable in terms of the popular vote. Whatever happens with shenanigans, I do not know, because never has there been this kind of situation before. We have one candidate who's massively more popular than the others and winning more votes than the others within the party primaries. And at the same time, everybody in that party is against him. Truly against him. This goes beyond just like how people snipe at each other during an election. I mean, they're bringing out big party guys, Mitt Romney, they're tossing out there, and of all people to come out against someone.
Can we talk about that for a minute? Is Mitt Romney some bastion of popularity in the Republican Party?
And consistency, and
that people are like, oh, Mitt Romney is against him. We better listen. He ran a terrible campaign, like Trump said. I don't think he's
a loser, as Trump would say.
Why are people going to listen to him? I don't understand.
They're not.
They're not.
It's seemingly.
No, and I think the worst part is that these people are so unself-aware, they don't realize that this stuff helps Trump, because his whole narrative is that the establishment has screwed you over. It's kind of the same narrative as Bernie in a way, but coming from the other side. The establishment has screwed you over. These people are all messing up our country. They're screwing you over with trade deals, and I'm going to fix it because I'm not going to take any of this BS. And that's his shtick. And when they send Mitt Romney out there to go against him, it just perfectly plays into his narrative. It's like they're writing this for him. Now he can say, of course, they had to send this hack Mitt Romney out there to try to stop me. This guy, this loser, he's the reason you have Obama. I mean, it's so perfect for him. It's so perfect. And he doesn't even take advantage of it as not enough. I mean, they had this like Heritage Foundation thing with like 1,000 conservatives, like respected conservatives, signed this letter. These experts, these foreign policy experts and all these things signed this letter against Trump. I mean, what he he should just say, yeah, these are the neocon idiots that have led to our foreign policy. You're damn right. I'm proud that they're against me. And he actually said one good thing that's great in the debate. He said, would it be so terrible if we actually got along with other countries in the world? And they hate when he says stuff like that because their whole policy is based on there have to be a bunch of wars that we're involved in overseas. That's entirely what they're all about. That wing of people that condemn him. And I don't like the guy, but stuff like that makes me sort of root for him at those specific moments. Not that I necessarily want to see. I don't want to see any of these people as president.
I have a similar problem in that once in a while you're like, man, that Trump. Okay, he's got some points, but yeah, you just feel bad.
And then he says he wants to torture people, and you're like,
right? Yeah,
okay, great.
Or he wants to build a wall, or that he hates Muslims, and he wants to. It's like, all right.
Or he'll intimidate somehow 4-star military generals.
Oh, they'll listen to me. Don't you worry. I give a mean noogie. Mr. General. You'll torture him.
Combat for years and years are somehow going to be intimidated by Donald Trump. I found
you can just put him in a room with his children for a couple hours, and they'll crack. Those two dullards.
Points for using the term dullard. All right. Speaking of dullards, I think that's a great segue to our Democratic debate. Although, and we won't get too in depth on this because really, although this was a little bit different in the sense that it took place in Flint. There's a political connotation right off the bat from the water crisis, and they did go into a few interesting issues that were pressed upon them a little more than normal. And I'll just mention two of them that we can talk about. One is Anderson Cooper, kind of
secretary.
What was
secretary?
that? Secretary. It's like, oh yeah, it was either secretary, or senator. He was really not that good at trying to get in on them.
Better than Wolf Blitzer, though.
Like,
nobody was worse than Wolf Blitzer.
Secretary, senator. But yeah, they basically brought up this guy that asked the question, hey, it's cool that you guys are all talking about Flint, but you only started 2 weeks ago, and this has been going on for 5 months. So what's up with that? Is this all politics? And of course, they both denied it. They've always cared about Flint. They've always cared about the water of Flint, of course, for years and years. They've been concerned about Detroit and the auto industry and all this stuff. But I did like that they actually went after the auto bailout stuff, and that Hillary, while she proudly proclaimed her support for it, Bernie... And went after Bernie for not supporting the auto bailout. Bernie didn't back down. He said, yeah, you don't need to bail everybody out. And then went right back after Hillary about her support of the much, much larger bank bailouts in 2008, which I thought was awesome.
Yeah, I thought he came off really strong tonight, and that was great to hear. I don't think criticizing the auto bailout helped him with that audience. But
probably not, but the people watching that makes it even a little more ballsy,
Yeah, I think people watching on TV, though, or most of them probably agree with this. Like, everybody was against the bailout, but
stop calling like 3 companies in Detroit the auto industry. All right, there's more, cars will exist if they went out of business, as Rico pointed out in the blog.
Well, and Ford didn't take any bailout money, and they're doing just fine.
We would have no cars, guys, if it wasn't for Hillary Clinton.
No more driving. We didn't have a bailout.
I was happy to see. I was happy to see Bernie stand the attack against Hillary, though. He treated her too easy in prior debates.
It's been kid gloves with Bernie a lot, and Hillary kind of seems to be the opposite. She seems to be going out of her way to agree with Hillary as much as possible. Agree with Bernie, that is, because after his first opening statement, the first thing she goes is, first of all, amen to that, and then she's like, but here's why I'm a little bit better than Bernie. Like, she's not really attacking him strongly, while he was going after her pretty hard tonight.
Wasn't that?
Well, you know what clash I loved was the Import-Export Bank. The two of them going at it over that, because Bernie was not backing off the fact that it's just corporate welfare and it's just used to curry political favors, and Hillary Clinton's desperately trying to defend her support of it.
Oh, I love when Anderson Cooper said, so when you're talking about companies like Boeing and Caterpillar and these huge companies, do they really need this money? And she's like, you know what? I think I thought that too at first, Anderson, and I looked into it, and I determined that they do actually need this money from the taxpayer. That was like unbelievable, just unabashedly just being a crony.
Well, along those lines, my history may be a little bit off, but did Hillary vote for the Trans-Pacific agreement?
Well, no, because she wasn't in Senate when it came up for a vote.
So, I thought she supported it, though.
But she wrote it, negotiated it, and held a press conference in Singapore where she touted how great it was, and only now as a presidential candidate.
After she had time to read it.
Well, yes. After she read the agreement that she helped negotiate, only then did she realize that she wrote a piece of garbage and that it's not that good. It's really incredible.
Awesome.
This woman is
She's written
amazing.
several novels she did not remember, went back and just, they were amazing.
She's like,
Didn't
when
remember writing
I
a single word.
read It Takes a Village. Terrible book. Just atrocious. Return that.
That was a great moment in the debate where she denounced, after she had further time to review that that agreement. She's like, oh, after I read it, it was no longer any good.
Now, I'm going to just quickly shout out another one of my past podcast guests, Jen Briney of Congressional Dish, because she did a whole thing on this, on Hillary Clinton and the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And she played the clip of her from like 3 years ago up at a press conference in Singapore, talking about how great this agreement was, that she helped negotiate it, touting her involvement with it. Like, it's so insane. It's the exact opposite of what she says now, even though she still has to admit she helped negotiate it because she did. It's a fact. It can't be denied. But she somehow still tries to spin it into opposition to it, which is just, it's absurd.
Well, just like the omnibus crime bill, when they brought that up, and she's like backtracking, and she's like, "Oh yeah, well, there was a lot of good things in there. We had good intentions, and
it's like Charles Manson denouncing Helter Skelter."
Right? Yeah.
Terrible book.
Now we have all about justice reform. It's like, no, you were fully in support of this bill. You loved it. Your husband signed it. You were all about it.
It would be amazing if Fox did a Democratic debate, which they haven't done that yet, have they?
No, that's not happening.
Yeah,
We
no.
should. Just have Sean Hannity and Rush Limbaugh host it.
Or where Megyn Kelly can do the PowerPoint presentation against Hillary Clinton like they did to Trump, which was probably a big reason why the Democrats would never have the debate on Fox, because they know they would just destroy Hillary with her.
By the way, to go back to that, Donald Trump and Megyn Kelly are totally hooking up once this whole election thing is over. You just know it. The tension is high.
See the fire in their eyes.
Oh man. So what other points from this Democratic debate? We don't need to get too in depth on
Well,
this.
one thing I want to bring up is how ridiculous it was where Hillary Clinton was talking about Boeing versus Airbus. And she's like, well, Airbus's government is going out and really advocating for them. And it's like, what are you talking about? You want the U.S. government to go out and work as a sales agent for Boeing now?
That's literally what she said. She said, I go around the world advocating, selling American products. Like, what are you So you're basically just saying that the U.S. government and the presidency is there to help corporations, American corporations around the world, which is exactly what Bernie Sanders is saying you stand for. I mean, she's saying it. And then he's saying that she's a crony capitalist. And she's saying, yes, I am. It's crazy to watch. But saying it in this way that comes across positive somehow in her, I guess to her constituency, because she got applause for it. A lot of applause, actually. I thought she did better than Bernie in this crowd.
Well, I think a lot of people that really support Clinton, though, don't even really care what she says. They're just going to clap no matter what, because they've already decided that they support Hillary Clinton.
It seemed like everybody that they got up to ask questions, they're like, oh, and just before we start, this guy's a Sanders supporter.
Yeah, they did say that every time.
They all were Sanders supporters. But one of the things I liked that Bernie did tonight was that he wouldn't give in to Hillary's idea of holding gun manufacturers responsible for crimes that people commit. Like the fact that he brought up that would be the end of gun manufacturing in America. Like, who's gonna...
There's no legal theory of liability to hold a manufacturer of a legal product responsible for the product operating, in a way
it's not intended to.
Well,
right, or by somebody else.
Shoot, it's not intended to be used in a mass murder, but it's intended to fire a bullet. So there's no product liability.
People kill people with knives, with cars, with bats, with crowbars. You can't hold objects and the people who create them accountable for bad things done with them. It's ridiculous.
It sets a very dangerous precedent where you could sue over anything. Like, imagine those old people that crashed into a farmer's market and killed 18 people. You're going to sue Ford because of that, because they drove the car into the farmer's market.
No, dangerous vehicle. Clearly.
Yes, exactly. It's it's absurd. You could do, and like you said, you could do it with any product now. It would never work. And to say for Hillary Clinton to be like, oh yeah, they need to get sued, it's just so stupid.
Well, I mean, if they could be sued, that's the end of guns. Period. Because
for sure,
you can't make a gun if you're going to be sued if someone uses it to commit a crime, and you have there's no way anticipating that. So
no, just be 3D printed guns would just be on the rise. That's what would happen.
And Sanders is funny because he touts his D+ or whatever D- rating from the NRA, and he He tries to say he's anti-gun, and he did vote for the assault weapons ban. He's not great on guns. He's not fantastic, but he's much, much better than a lot of the other Democrats who basically just want they want what Hillary's saying, where you can just sue gun manufacturers, and they want ways to literally take guns out of the hands of people. And I don't think that Bernie really wants that. I think he is someone who wants some gun control, and he wants some stuff we might not agree with, but he's not unreasonable completely about it. And Hillary and a lot of other Democrats are.
I think one important point to mention about Hillary is, generally speaking, she has a very condescending, smug look on her face whenever anyone says anything that can
definitely more punchable than Sanders.
Yeah, considered derogatory towards her. But I think she was legitimately flustered and angry when the moderator, not Anderson, whatever his name was, pressed her on the criminal.
The crime bill 94.
Yeah, the 94 crime bill, and how it kind of led to increased incarceration. She got legitimately angry about that and really tried to avoid the question as much as possible. So I think that's a big area of weakness for her, since she seems to pride on being the champion of minorities or oppressed people, when really her actions in the past.
Well, her and Sanders both have the same excuse for that whole, every bill's going to have some good and some bad. And hey, I really wanted to ban assault weapons, which is in there, and I wouldn't be able to do that if I didn't agree to this other stuff.
Unless you agree to that shitty bill.
Great. So send millions of lives to jail so you can pass this other political agenda you have. Come on. I agree Bernie's better than her on this stuff, but I think that's still a cop-out. Accept responsibility for it. Say you were wrong. You shouldn't have voted it. He wouldn't say
exactly.
That's what pisses me off. He wouldn't even say that. He still has justified it. He couldn't say, well, that was the wrong thing to do. We can realize that in hindsight. At least he couldn't even say that for the guy that's supposed to be the criminal justice reform guy. I mean, come on. It's like he's like good on some things, but the things he's good on, he's just not strong enough on. Except for tonight, he was strong. He was very strong on the crony capitalism stuff, and I'll give him points for that. But he's just, I want him to be like really against the drug war, really for criminal justice reform, and he just never gets there. He never gets there.
Well, even waffled on we were giving credit for saying that the gun manufacturers shouldn't be sued, but then did he catch that weird? He then went off into another weird old man Bernie tangent, where then he was like, well, you know what? Except gun manufacturers that sell into areas where there's a lot of criminals buying guns, maybe they should be sued or held accountable. Which
I started to trail off there.
That made absolutely no sense whatsoever. It's like what? So
what if a gun manufacturer is in Inglewood now? It's got to be shut down.
Right, it's like give me a break. Well, gun manufacturers aren't selling guns illegally, though. They're manufacturing guns to sell legally. Like that's like nothing about it made any sense at all. It's like, okay, so if it's the high criminal area, you can sue the gun manufacturer because there's more criminals using the guns improperly.
Like, census data just indicated it's a high crime area. We got to pull our business.
That was nuts.
Great economic logic. And not to mention his constant railing against the corporations, no matter what the context of the question was. Sometimes it made no sense at all. He's just like, well, the corporations. It's like, okay.
Right. And and do you like it? This is kind of in the same vein. I can't remember exactly what led into it, but he was talking about cost, like the wages that people are getting paid. And he was like, you know what, we can't have Americans competing against foreign workers. And it's like, well, Bernie, do you understand that if you're going to be trading at all, if you want goods to come from any other country and you don't want to ban all trade, they're always going to be competing against other countries, right? That's kind of the way things work.
Well, Bernie's just going to set a minimum wage in Mexico. So.
I think that's what I was hearing him argue for Mexican minimum wage.
China minimum wage going from 10 cents to $10 an hour. They'll be thrilled. They'll be turning out in droves to vote for them.
So do you think this debate did anybody for either of these candidates? Or, at this point, I feel like Hillary and Bernie supporters are locked in, and they're just, I don't feel like there's that many in the party that are probably going to be swayed by these debates, but maybe. If anyone's on the fence, though, who do you guys think came across better? We'll start with Howie.
I think Bernie, this was one of his best performances. He seemed a lot stronger. Didn't back down on anything. I think you're probably right that most people already have their minds made up. And actually, I wish they would just stop having these debates. I think enough has been enough. And I don't know if you guys ever look in our politics on Reddit, like the Clinton and Sanders people are just like savaging each other every day. Like the attacks are brutal. There's I don't
you
know.
got that DNC chair to resign and endorse him, huh?
That was awesome. I loved it.
Yeah, she sounds like a pretty principled woman
Based
too.
on foreign policy views as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's a veteran and Hillary's hawkishness. She can't stand by and
You know what? Yeah, they didn't get into a foreign policy at all tonight in the
That's true.
Democratic debate. That's kind of annoying.
Maybe we do need one more Democratic debate.
Yeah, they need to actually. I think they need to go into a lot. Well, actually, the last couple, I
Well,
think, they really
Howie,
got
your
deep into
wishes
it.
are being granted because, folks, this show is airing on Monday, and 2 days from that, you will have another Democratic debate. So, guess what?
Unbelievable. What is the point of that? 3 days later, they better. Well, hopefully, it's all foreign policy. I want debates centered on one damn topic that are 1 hour long. That's what I want.
There's good and bad news. Yes, there's 2 more debates this week, a Democrat and a Republican. That's the bad news, I guess. Good news if you like listening to these debate shows where we talk about stuff. Good news is there's no other scheduled debates now that I know of. Now, at the debate sites I view here, there's TBD possible debates in April and May, but I don't see any actual scheduled. So I think there probably will be more, especially if they drag both these things out to the convention. They can't just stop doing debates for 4 months. But I don't know. I don't know when they are. So we're gonna need to think of new stuff to talk about. First of all.
There will be plenty.
Second of all, Rico, we didn't get to you, or did we even get to Brian? Oh, you guys, did you guys think that Bernie, like Howard said, did better in this debate?
Bernie for sure.
Yeah, I thought Bernie did better.
It's all relative.
But I think he had a lot of slip-ups, and I think Hillary's just in this mode where she's like, I got this locked up. I'm treading water, and that's why she's going to... Yeah, we have a lot of agreements here. I agree with what he's saying, because why rock the boat?
She wants to play nice with the Bernie people because she wants them fully on board later on.
She's not going to make any major mistakes.
She doesn't need to be on the attack. Really.
She's fine the way she is. She's just like, whatever. I'm getting through this. He's not winning. I'm just not going to say anything dumb. She's too smart of a politician to make any huge mistake. And I think she's got this nomination pretty much locked up.
I pray you're wrong, because I would much rather see Bernie come out of the two of them. But yeah, you're probably right though, and I do agree. She doesn't really go out of her way to attack Bernie's positions because she doesn't want to anger supporters who, let's be honest, a lot of them probably are going to default vote for Hillary no matter what, because people get locked into the two parties and they have no option, according to vote for anyone else. So they have to vote for Hillary.
All right. Well, luckily we don't have to vote for Hillary. We don't have to vote for any of these people because we live in a free country still, mostly. Until that darn Hitler, Donald Trump, gets in.
Hey, can we talk about one last thing real quick? Does anyone besides me looking at Mark's computer screen know that Jeb Bush has 4 delegates?
Wow. Good for Jebster. That's one more delegate than
the delegate
what's
count.
the first name?
I think Rand has 1.
He has 1, right? Huckabee has 1 somehow. Carly Farina has 1, and Jeb Bush has 4. Carson has 8, so maybe that's what he stuck in for. He was waiting to get to the magic number of 8, hand them all copies of his book and his movie with Cuba Gooding Jr., and then move on.
What happens to these delegates when the candidate drops out?
Well, if they're pledged, they're pledged. So I don't know if they're all pledged or not. They're not all necessarily pledged delegates, but if they drop out, I'm not actually sure. I think they become released if they officially remove their name from contention. Otherwise, they'll all be released. If there's no nominee, if there's no consensus nominee at first. Donald Trump's picture on this graphic, I might have to link to this because it is just ridiculous. Like the others all have pretty normal pictures, and then Trump just looks like a complete ridiculous cartoon. Anyway, we've covered a lot today, gentlemen, and I really appreciate you guys hanging in there with me. I appreciate everyone at home hanging in with me or on your vehicle, however you listen to this podcast. We do, of course, appreciate your support, and the reason we keep doing these shows is because you listen to them. So if you keep liking them, keep listening to them. Please do subscribe on iTunes, on Stitcher Radio, wherever you listen to this program, and please do leave us a 5-star rating and a great review because that'll really help us pump up in those rankings and get this thing out to more people and keep this liberty conversation going. Guys, until next time, I'm not going to mess around. It's time to sign off. So why don't you join me when I tell everyone at home to please live